Test. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to my little YouTube channel here, where I talk about wedding filmmaking and the lifestyle around it sometimes. This is an early video in my channel upgrade this year, and I'm not sure where this channel is going to be taken. I do want to share more behind the scenes type stuff and more of what I think filmmakers would like to bring out into the open and have open conversation about within the industry, But today I wanted to touch on a project that I was working on this entire year. At time of this recording, it's the end of December 2024. And throughout 2024, I was working on a major project I'm holding right here. And there's a previous video on this channel where I talk about the release of the book. At that time of the recording, it was the beta version. That was the paperback version. But now the final version 1.0 has been released in hardcover. And so I finally have it here. There's been some issues with deliveries being made in my area of the hills of Quebec, the forested hills of Quebec. And so I believe that's the reason why a lot of couriers have not been able to meet their intended delivery dates. And so I've been waiting 3 weeks for my personal copy of my book that was released at the beginning of December. Right now it's near the end of December. This copy actually is not my own copy. It's the copy that is at the Third Son tailor shop in Ottawa. As I mentioned in my previous video, I started taking on little projects with a local tailor shop, and I've grown to become, I would like to think that I've grown into some sort of familial face on that channel, on their social media, doing all their video content. And so I would like to, I personally consider them a large part of my social circle now. By that I mean I consider them family. And what they had done when my book was released was buy a copy for the shop. And so anyone who comes into Third Son Tailor Shop on Bank Street in Ottawa will get a chance to see this book. I think I'll sign it too. I've never signed a book. I've written 2 other books before. I've never signed a book before. Maybe I'll do it for this one. But anyway, back to the point of this video. Throughout 2024, I was working on writing this book, editing and publishing it. And so I finally have it in my home here. I'm borrowing it from Third Son, the tailor shop. Rami, Robert, and Michelin and Coco are the family that I have there. And so it was an ineffable feeling to know that people that I had just met not even a year ago have been able to support me in that way. And for anyone that's watching, I hope you have some sort of social circle as well that can make you feel included and belonged in some capacity. Anyway, when my book came out, they ordered a copy for the shop, and I was very, what's the word? I can't even say it now. I'm still at a loss for words. I was very appreciative, to put into plain English. They got the delivery a lot sooner than the couriers in my area have been able to deliver it. Again, I've been waiting over 3 weeks now, and it's still not in my mailbox. Maybe it has to do with Canada Post being on strike. They lifted their strike a few days ago, last week actually, and so maybe now all mailing and delivery services will get back on track. But for the moment, my deliveries have not been made, and so I've borrowed this copy from the tailor shop. What I would like to do with it is read chapter 1. I would like to read out loud chapter 1 of my book, Viewer is Protagonist, the 5 components of a working theory on the 5 components of a compelling wedding film. It's a book. It's really a book on wedding film editing, the psychology behind the meaning, the meaning behind different shots that we choose, the psychological meaning behind our choices as editors in the timeline space that we're editing in. And so this book is broken up, to speak on it a little bit. This book is broken up into 3 different parts. Part 1 is the theory around it all, the philosophy around it all. Part 2 is the meat and potatoes of it, which dives deeply into the 5 specific components of what I believe to be a compelling wedding film. And then the third part is putting it all together kind of and making my predictions moving into the next 5 to 10 years within the wedding film industry, my predictions for the industry within the next 5 to 10 years. And so that's the basis of this book, Viewer is Protagonist, the title of this book came from my understanding, my philosophy, my theory around that the most compelling wedding films place the viewer as the protagonist within the timeline. So the viewer really becomes the main character of the plot line that the film is taking them on. And so the traditional protagonists of a film take more of a guide approach. If we were to put it in terms of Joseph Campbell's A Hero's Journey, the guides of the narrative, the traditional narrative, for example, Obi-Wan or Yoda in Star Wars, they are the guides within that traditional narrative, where Luke is the protagonist in that traditional narrative. But what I like to conceptualize my editing around is the viewer becomes Luke, and the couple becomes the guide. The couple is Yoda and Obi-Wan, to put into colloquial terms. And that's how I like to approach my editing technique. I would like a public viewership to take on the mantle of hero and go through a journey themselves instead of being strung along on a journey of someone else's. Traditional Hollywood movies can do that because they do have that epic storyline for audiences to follow. I don't think, from my experience, that the average wedding allows for a high conflict narrative plot structure. I don't think that's typical of a traditional wedding, which tends to be my personal experience of weddings. A beginning of morning preparations, the ceremony sometime in the noon, afternoon time, and then a reception later on in the evening. Maybe there are multiple days that do this, but I don't believe that this progression of beginning, middle, end calls for a really high strung epic climax that the Hollywood blockbusters can allow and can portray and give their audiences. I don't think wedding films are within the same subgenre as sci-fi, rom-com, even documentary. Documentaries on the big screen, on Netflix, on YouTube, the only reason they are made in the first place is because that there's a high-stakes conflict involved. And I don't think, I would like to believe that most couples don't have high stakes involved if they're this far into their relationship, being able to accept that they're tying the knot with their partner, I hope that makes sense. All this to say that in order to garner a strong attention from our audiences, our viewers, I philosophize, I conceptualize, I create my timelines with the idea that our viewer is the main character. The viewer is the protagonist. And so throughout this book, I refer to it as Viewer is Protagonist Theory, under the assumption that the most engagement that we get from our audiences is when the editor, the filmmaker, intends for them to become the main character of that wedding world, let's call it, in our example here. I write about it in terms of wedding filmmaking, but I'm sure this could be applied to other forms of filmmaking as well. But anyway, I would love to get deeper into it. I would love to get into chapter 1 of Viewer is Protagonist. Chapter 1. Rethinking Your Wedding Films. The 3 wedding subgenres. I believe we are at a crossroads in video content creation, specifically in regards to crafting our wedding films. But what is a wedding film? In our ever-evolving industry, we are getting to know a genre that is both steeped in tradition and brimming with innovation. The wedding film, at its core, is a unique form of visual storytelling that captures one of the most pivotal days in a couple's life. It is such a profound encapsulation of human connection, emotion, and celebration. The works we produce offer an opportunity to preserve not only key moments in an individual's life, but also the fleeting emotions that couples share together. Within this genre, distinct subgenres have emerged, each offering a unique lens through which the story of a wedding day can be told. These subgenres have evolved over time, reflecting broader shifts in culture, technology, and artistic preferences. As a result, the world of wedding filmmaking today is more diverse and dynamic than ever before. It is an art form that has grown to accommodate different visions, with each subgenre adding its own value and perspective to the way we capture love stories. For the moment, it looks as though there are 2 popular beliefs that our industry idealizes as the perfect wedding film. What I like to categorize as 2 subgenres. On the one hand, we have those who strive for the Hollywood hero's journey of transformation from beginning, middle to end. While on the other hand, we have those who believe that the reality of wedding event videography is confined to capturing beautiful and pretty imagery. By my understanding, this is the current paradigmatic scale that we find our editing on: transformation-driven or beauty-driven. These subgenres, which we will explore more below, are not merely stylistic variations. They are rooted in different philosophies about what a wedding film should accomplish. They represent distinct interpretations of what it means to document a wedding day with specific artistic intent. As filmmakers, our choice of subgenre not only determines the final product, but also shapes our approach from the moment we begin filming to the final stages of post-production. It influences everything from the shots we prioritize, to the way we engage with our couples and their guests, to the editing techniques we apply afterward as well. The subgenre we choose will frame the perspective through which our audience experiences the celebration. They define the purpose of our wedding films. Before we examine each subgenre, perhaps we already have an inkling as to which side of the scale we lean towards. Are we creating transformation-driven or beauty-driven wedding films? Of course, we may find ourselves somewhere in between where there is a perfect balance of the two. Such examples are seen throughout the globe, and myself, having been a jury panelist in many film competitions, deserve to be recognized for outstanding cinematography and storytelling. Still, the two extremes have tended to pull us in either direction and have inadvertently left us confused. I believe we are confused about our purpose as wedding filmmakers. I want to do this, but my couples want me to do that. Through the past decade of being in this profession, I'm seeing more and more the confusion and unfulfillment that wedding filmmakers are feeling. We are growing doubtful about which end of the scale to pursue: transformation-driven strict logical narrative versus beauty-driven strict visual allure, or somewhere in between. As well as an insecurity from the lack of this attainment. In other words, we are anxious about the purpose our wedding films fulfill. So what is our purpose? The purpose of a wedding film. There are multiple reasons one may wish to watch a wedding video of a complete stranger, which we will discuss in a later chapter. But for now, it is my point to say that the reason one watches a wedding film should not be the reason one creates a wedding film. If Charlotte, for example, watches wedding videos online to inspire her own wedding's mood board, a filmmaker's purpose should not solely be to inform the viewers about decorative choices. Although the floral arrangements may be a big aspect of the film's content, I do not think a seasoned videographer will shoot for the sole purpose of Pinterest boards. The reason we consume is not typically why we produce. The beauty-driven and the transformation-driven wedding film has long been the default product we have aimed for in our profession. They have been the guiding force behind a filmmaker's shooting and editing choices, and thus have created these two main purposes to our films. 1, to share the couple's transformation, and 2, to share the visual beauty. We will delve deeper into each purpose by exploring these two subgenres, but first I would like to share a third purpose. The third purpose is new. There is a third subgenre that I believe is now emerging throughout the globe. The third purpose that I am now beginning to see more and more, whether consciously or subconsciously by the filmmaker, is 3, to share the couple's identity. I call this third subgenre of a wedding film identity-driven. As we explore each subgenre, I believe it essential to acknowledge a simple yet profound truth. There is no single quote-unquote best subgenre. Each has its strengths and is best suited to different types of couples and their particular desires. The beauty of wedding filmmaking lies in its diversity, in the myriad ways we can cater to the needs and preferences of our clients. As filmmakers, we must be adaptable and able to discern and deliver the style that best meets the expressed needs and wants of each couple. It is our responsibility to understand what the couple values most, whether it's visual beauty, emotional resonance, or even a singular drone shot, and to craft a film that aligns with those expectations. Our role is not about proving which subgenre or style is superior, but about listening to the couple's wishes and translating these into a visual experience that is meaningful to them. By focusing on their expressed desires, we can make sure that the final film genuinely reflects their vision of their special day. With that essential disclaimer in mind, let's first visit the two dominant subgenres that have long shaped the wedding filmmaking industry: beauty-driven and transformation-driven films. These approaches have become benchmarks in our field, influencing not only our creative processes, but have also shaped the expectations of our clients and fellow filmmakers. Beauty-driven wedding films. The beauty-driven wedding film is about visual splendor. This approach is based on the belief that a wedding film should resemble a carefully curated gallery, a celebration of aesthetic grandeur. The central goal of a beauty-driven film is to capture the elegance, intricacies, and sheer visual allure of the wedding day, creating a film that is as breathtaking to watch as it is to recall, to share the visual beauty. Note, I understand that the idea of beauty is different for everyone, and I want to say here that I have high respect for anyone who stands for their individual definition of beauty. When I say beauty-driven, note that I am referring to the mainstream magazine, studio, and commercial standards of visual pretty appeal. I recall one particular couple whose vision was clear from the outset. They wanted their wedding film to truly showcase all the beautiful moments and details of their day. From the delicate floral arrangements to the sweeping views of their stunning venue, every element was meticulously planned to create an atmosphere of elegance. They expressed their desire for a film that would allow them, and their loved ones, to relive the day in all its visual splendor. I worked closely with the couple to understand what mattered most to them, and their multi-day wedding celebration was nothing short of epic. Each day was filled with dazzling decorations, stunning backdrops, lush florals, and beautifully designed attire, turning each event into a grand spectacle of visual beauty. The couple's vision was to create an atmosphere of elegance and wonder across every aspect of their celebration, and they wanted the film to capture that grandeur. From the intricate floral arrangements that changed with each day to the elaborately choreographed dances that added a sense of theater to the festivities. The different attire they wore over the course of the events, each chosen to enhance the celebratory meaning, further enhanced the aesthetic impact. One of my favorite parts was capturing the guests' vibrant energy as they meshed perfectly into the beauty around them and participated in the carefully planned activities. The final film was a tribute to the scale and visual splendor of the entire celebration. It captured not only the breathtaking aesthetics, but also the immersive beauty that enveloped every moment. The couple was ecstatic with the outcome, and the footage went on to receive international recognition, winning an International Wedding Film Award. It served as a powerful reminder of how multi-day weddings, when designed with intention and artistry, can become an awe-inspiring visual journey that elevates the cinema magic. On top of showcasing the visual grandeur appreciated by the couple, beauty-driven wedding films also excel at highlighting the work of other wedding vendors. Florists, planners, decorators, musicians, all of these professionals contribute to the visual beauty of the day, and the beauty-driven approach ensures their contributions are showcased in a way that honors their craftsmanship. Our films become part of these vendors' portfolios, and it is never a bad thing when our work is shared by others. The intricate floral arrangements, the elegant decor, and the carefully chosen musical acts, for example, all play an essential role in building the overall atmosphere, and the beauty-driven film captures and showcases these contributions in a way that does them justice. By giving attention to the work of each vendor, our work honors the efforts of everyone involved, turning the wedding day into a collaborative masterpiece that represents the culmination of many creative talents. In this way, a beauty-driven film is not only about the couple's love story, but also about celebrating the collective creative efforts that bring the day to life. With all this in mind, however, the beauty-driven subgenre is not without its hurdles. The most significant of these is the inherent reliance on the visual aspects of the wedding to carry the film. This may pose a significant problem since, cinematically, not every wedding environment can achieve the level of beauty that we often aim to capture. If one chooses to pursue this subgenre of crafting wedding films, they may find themselves pigeonholed into a specific demographic. couples who place a high value on aesthetic appeal and often work with substantial budgets. Not all couples have this inclination. Personally, I've had the privilege of working with couples who do highly value an elevated aesthetic, above the 5-figure budget range for wedding videography, and it's incredibly rewarding to collaborate with those who share this vision. However, I recognize that this approach isn't for everyone, and, as a result, the beauty-driven subgenre can significantly narrow one's potential client base. What's more, trying to make a wedding film look extravagantly beautiful when the setting simply doesn't support it can lead to a product that feels forced and superficial. There's a fine line between enhancing a setting's natural beauty and imposing an aesthetic that doesn't belong. We cannot always make a lackluster barn look like a ballroom or a banquet hall look like a castle. Ultimately, adopting the beauty-driven mindset can produce stunning results, but it also carries the risk of alienating a broader audience, or worse, repelling those who sense the inauthenticity. The risk is that the film may end up focusing too much on trying to elevate the visual aspects, even when the setting or details do not naturally lend themselves to that kind of emphasis. It is akin to claiming oneself as a celebrity photographer, even though his or her portfolio are majority selfies. The public sees the inauthenticity. If we wish to work within this subgenre, I believe it essential to honor the true essence of each setting, and the definitive beauty-driven film, both fortunately and unfortunately, requires a refined beauty at every corner. Despite these challenges, the beauty-driven subgenre remains a popular and powerful approach to wedding filmmaking. For those who are passionate about visual composition and content, this subgenre offers an opportunity to create films that are lively and rich in opulence. It allows filmmakers to highlight the aesthetics of the day while celebrating the contributions of other wedding professionals, all while crafting a film that captivates the viewer with its visual elegance. Transformation-driven wedding films. The transformation-driven approach shifts focus to the emotional journey of the couple. This subgenre draws its name from the popular epic storytelling techniques that showcase the transformation of characters over the course of the narrative. This approach emphasizes the deeper emotional journey of the couple, transforming their wedding day into a journey that highlights significant growth and milestones in their relationship. The core of the transformation-driven subgenre is the positioning of the wedding day as a significant culmination and reflection of the couple's broader life story together, where the highs and lows of their greater journey is reflected upon during the wedding. The purpose is clear: to share a transformation in the couple's relationship. Typically, this is done through showcasing particular speeches. Wedding filmmakers frequently draw upon classic storytelling frameworks, notably Joseph Campbell's Hero's Journey and Blake Snyder's Save the Cat Beats, a beginning, middle, and end. These time-honored structures, originally conceived for epic myths and cinematic scripts, offer a blueprint for crafting a wedding day into a narrative that feels both universal and intimately personal. Central to this narrative construction are the speeches and toasts delivered throughout the day. These words are not merely ceremonial, but are the vessels of emotional truth in a couple's journey together. Namely, the speeches and toasts provide the background context to their transformation into a married couple. It is in these spoken words that the progression of the couple's relationship is often revealed, whether through the father of the bride's reflections, the best man's anecdotes, or the couple's own vows. These verbal expressions provide the narrative beats essential to a transformation-driven film. For instance, the heartfelt words of the groom might encapsulate the trials and triumphs that the couple has faced together, serving as the catalyst in Snyder's storytelling structure. The bride's vows might embody the emotional climax, mirroring the all is lost moment before leading to the resolution of their union. A father's toast might then provide the final image, encapsulating the relationship's emotional journey by expressing his pride in their love, sharing cherished moments, and offering a vision of hope and happiness for their future. These speeches and toasts, when genuine and heartfelt, guide the audience through the wedding day's emotional landscape, much like the stages of Campbell's Hero's Journey. I remember watching a wedding film that perfectly integrated multiple speeches to tell the story of a couple who had overcome the struggles of a long-distance relationship. The best man's speech highlighted the countless late-night phone calls and the sacrifices they made to stay connected despite the distance, setting the stage for the couple's perseverance. The bride's father spoke of the emotional toll of being apart, but also the unwavering determination they both showed, which beautifully illustrated their journey through the challenges. The groom's vows then brought everything together, speaking of the triumph they felt as they finally stood together on their wedding day, ready to begin their new chapter. Each speech added a new layer to the narrative, providing a powerful emotional arc that showed not only the struggles, but also the joy and fulfillment that came from overcoming them. The result was a film that captured the essence of their love story in a deeply moving and authentic way, making their union all the more poignant. However, this approach is not without its challenges. The most significant, and the most I get questions about, is the inherent reliance on the speeches to carry the narrative weight of the film. Not every wedding is graced with eloquent or emotionally charged speeches or toasts. Some couples and their guests may be more reserved, choosing not to share their personal stories openly for the camera. When there are minimal speeches, or if they lack emotional depth, or if they are entirely absent, the filmmaker may struggle to find the material necessary to construct a compelling, transformation-driven narrative as the foundation to all the visuals. Nevertheless, when these elements align, when the speeches are rich with narrative potential and are skillfully integrated with the day's visual storytelling, the transformation-driven subgenre can produce a film of remarkable emotional depth. Such films elevate the wedding day into a timeless narrative, capturing the essence of the couple's relationship and their journey together. The result is a work that not only documents the day, but also immerses the viewer in the emotional journey of the relationship, thus making it deeply resonant. The intersection and the emerging subgenre. Both the beauty-driven and transformation-driven subgenres offer unique advantages and distinct challenges. These two subgenres have, for a long time, defined the landscape of wedding filmmaking. They have provided us with a framework within which to work, offering clear guidelines on how to approach the day and what to focus on. But they also leave us with a choice, one that often feels like a compromise with unduly frustration. Do we prioritize the transformative journey of the couple's relationship, or do we focus on the visual beauty? Again, we are anxious about the purpose our wedding films fulfill. Must we choose one over the other? What if we didn't have to? This is where, I believe, things get interesting. As the industry continues to evolve, the third subgenre is beginning to emerge: the identity-driven wedding film. Through my international travels and having the opportunity to acquaint myself with many leading wedding filmmakers around the world, I am beginning to see this third subgenre as a convergence of our TikTok-catered content, i.e. beauty-driven, and traditional narrative arcs, i.e. transformation-driven. This new approach offers a way to share who our couples are as well as the aesthetic of the wedding without a heavy reliance on the speeches or opulent decor, both of which are significant issues in each respective subgenre. The identity-driven wedding film doesn't ask us to choose between story and beauty. Instead, it invites us to explore how a wedding film can truly reflect the couple's unique identity, their personalities, the dynamics of their relationship, and the essence of who they are. Identity-driven wedding films. The identity-driven subgenre is a shift in focus from the wedding day as an event to a representation of the couple as individuals. Rather than prioritizing a narrative arc or visual spectacle, the purpose of an identity-driven film is to share the authentic emotional expressions, characteristics, and quirks that make the couple who they are. It is an intimate portrayal that goes beyond documenting what happened during the day and instead reflects how the couple uniquely embodies love. The identity-driven wedding film is a visual representation of the couple as unique people. It is a reflection of who they are. How so? In an identity-driven wedding film, Everything, from the color palette to the sound design, from camera movement to pacing, is thoughtfully chosen to mirror the couple's personalities. For example, a shaky handheld camera movement may represent the couple's high energy or anxieties. Soft background music may reflect the groom's soft-spoken emotion. Quick pacing and fast transitions might depict the bride's highly curious attention span. The emphasis is on authenticity to the couple. The goal is not merely to show the beautiful venue or tell the overarching story of a transformation over time, but to craft a portrait of the couple's distinct character and emotions. I remember working with a couple whose personalities were multi-layered and deeply emotional. They were not easily defined by simple descriptors like playful or introspective. The groom had an outgoing, light-hearted side that brought laughter to every interaction, and the bride had a quiet, nurturing presence that seemed to ground everything around her. To reflect this complexity, I chose to blend different shooting styles. Dynamic handheld shots during moments of spontaneity and laughter, interspersed with soft, steady frames that lingered on the more intimate, reflective exchanges. One scene captured the groom joking with his groomsmen, the camera moving energetically to match their banter, while the next showed the bride taking a deep breath before walking down the aisle, the camera gently zooming in to capture her composed yet emotional expression. The pacing, sound design, and visual composition were all crafted to mirror their personalities, layered, nuanced, and full of depth. The film was true to them, showcasing not just the events of their wedding day, but the essence of who they were as individuals and as partners in life. The film becomes a powerful cinematic representation of the couple's unique character. Just as a composer might use melody, harmony, and rhythm to express the intricate emotions of a piece of music, a wedding film can become a reflection of a couple's character through multiple ways. Each frame, transition, and sound, for example, is like a note in a symphony, adding depth and nuance to reveal who the couple is beneath the surface. The resulting film is more than just a record of events. It is a layered representation of personality, emotion, and the intangible qualities that define the couple. In every frame, the couple's essence resonates like a beautifully composed score, capturing how their personalities come together in love beyond the wedding day. In the second part of this book, I will share my methods of representing human life into our wedding film timelines. The strength of the identity-driven subgenre lies in its ability to create an emotional connection with the viewer by presenting a poetic representation of the couple. This approach invites the audience, be it the couple, their friends, or even strangers, to witness not just the aesthetic beauty of the wedding day, but also the essence of who the couple truly is. It feels as though the viewer is guided by the couple's inner emotional world, unbound by rigid structural frameworks or the reliance on grandiose visuals. These films transcend mere documentation, becoming a reflection of human identity itself. The primary challenges of creating an identity-driven wedding film stem from its heavy reliance on the expertise of both the shooter and the editor. The editor, in particular, must take the raw footage and craft it into a compelling reflection of the couple's lives, a task that demands far more than technical skill. While producing beauty-driven or transformation-driven films is achievable with solid editing and quality footage, identity-driven films require a heightened level of artistry. Editors must not only demonstrate technical mastery, but also possess a deep understanding of the couple's personalities to portray them authentically and engagingly. This calls for wedding filmmakers to practice attentive listening and keen observation, making thoughtful interpretations of the couple's character within the limited time available to connect with them. Another significant challenge is balancing artistic expression with client expectations, making sure that the final product meets the couple's vision while maintaining our creative integrity. Furthermore, the time investment required for editing is substantial, as each moment must be thoughtfully crafted to align with the couple's identity. These factors collectively contribute to a higher barrier to entry for those aspiring to produce this subgenre of a wedding film. Now, before diving into the specifics of crafting an identity-driven wedding film in later chapters of this book, it's important to understand how this subgenre came to be. The approach stems from a philosophy I call Viewer is Protagonist Theory. which has shaped my understanding of attracting and engaging with our audiences. By grasping this foundational concept, one that inspired the title of this book, we can better appreciate the distinctive techniques that make identity-driven films such immersive and deeply personal creations. Viewer is protagonist theory. At the heart of the identity-driven subgenre is a philosophy I call the viewer is protagonist theory. It is the belief that anytime the viewer is compelled and engaged in watching a film, the film has turned the viewer into the protagonist. Unlike traditional movies, where the goal is to make the audience identify with the protagonist character, i.e. the bride or groom, this theory shifts the main character to the viewer, him or herself. The aim is not for the viewer to see the wedding day through the eyes of the couple, but to experience it as if they are getting to know a friend. The viewer is not a distant observer, but the main conversationalist. Fully immersed in the emotions and personalities of the bride and groom she is getting to know. In short, the viewer becomes the protagonist in uncovering the identity of the couple. To hold attention, the viewer must become the protagonist. To illustrate this, imagine the viewer as a detective in a mystery story, trying to understand the personality of a missing person. The detective cannot have a direct conversation with this individual, but instead must piece together an understanding of who they are based on the visual clues left behind. Similarly, in an identity-driven wedding film, the viewer is given visual and emotional cues, carefully curated and edited, to uncover the couple's personality. Each chosen composition, each sound effect, and every type of transition serves as a clue, allowing the viewer to slowly build a complete picture of the couple's character. In this way, the film invites the viewer to be more than a passive spectator. They become an investigator, discovering the layers of the couple's identity through the subtle details presented throughout the wedding film timeline. However, when this approach isn't utilized, when the viewer isn't placed in the role of the protagonist detective, the film risks losing its depth and the audience's engagement. Without the mystery to unravel, the viewer becomes a passive observer, simply watching events unfold without the intrigue of piecing together clues. To me, these films are the most boring to watch. In this scenario, rather than searching for hidden insights in each gesture, expression, or setting detail, the viewer remains on the outside, disconnected from the narrative's deeper layers. Just as a mystery novel without clues would fail to immerse the reader, a wedding film without this investigative element can feel one-dimensional. I believe they lack the personal thrill of discovery and the satisfaction that comes from forming a complete picture out of seemingly small and scattered details. Instead of uncovering a complex character portrait, the viewer simply watches events play out in a straightforward, cookie-cutter manner, and I really think this limits the potential for an emotional connection. By sidestepping the detective mystery approach, by overlooking the impact of viewer is protagonist theory, the film sacrifices the intrigue that turns casual viewers into active participants in a couple's story. As growing filmmakers, we want intrigue in our work. Okay, I'm starting to lose my voice, so I apologize if it's becoming softer and softer and softer. Compared to the beauty-driven and transformation-driven subgenres, the identity-driven subgenre has one very distinct advantage by utilizing viewer is protagonist theory. The unique focus on the couple's personalities makes each identity-driven film inherently different, avoiding the repetition that can occur with template-based films. Beauty-driven films, while visually stunning, can sometimes become monotonous if the aesthetics alone are not compelling enough to sustain viewer interest. Similarly, transformation-driven films often rely on a narrative structure that, if not executed well, can become predictable and lose the viewer's attention. Identity-driven films, by focusing on the authentic individual quirks and dynamics of each couple, offer something fresh and captivating each time. When edited with viewer is protagonist theory in mind, I believe this subgenre keeps the audience invested, begging them to discover all the unique facets of human emotion and character. Rather than simply guiding the viewer through a series of cause and effect events, for example, morning preparations, then the ceremony, then the reception dances, or the meet cute, then relationship hurdles, and then the wedding, Viewer is Protagonist Theory creates direct engagement with the unique personalities and emotions of the couple without a generic chronology. And by allowing the viewer to experience the wedding day in a non-linear manner, they can focus on the emotions, quirks, and relationships that define the couple, creating a deeper connection. With all this in mind, we can now understand that there are three major benefits that Viewer is Protagonist Theory gives us as wedding filmmakers. 1. We do not need to rely on a beautiful environment. 2. We do not need to rely on a good narrated story from any dialogue. And 3. We do not need to limit ourselves to a cookie-cutter timeline of events. And then there's an illustration of a table comparing the three wedding subgenres. I'll let you go through this yourselves. I won't read it all. The inspiration for the Viewer's Protagonist Theory and the identity-driven film stems from my profound experiences visiting some of the world's most celebrated art and historical sites throughout the summer of 2024. Standing before Botticelli's The Birth of Venus at the Uffizi Galleries in Florence, I found myself not just observing a painting, but being transported into a timeless narrative that transcended the canvas's time. Similarly, encountering Caravaggio's Crucifixion of St. Andrew at the Cleveland Museum of Art drew me into the depths of the artist's intended message, attempting to decipher the emotions and stories conveyed through each meticulous brushstroke. As I wandered through the ancient ruins around the Acropolis in Athens, the stories etched into the stones of the Parthenon connecting me to the myriad tales of classic human nature and aspiration. The intimate art galleries scattered throughout Montreal introduced me to contemporary works that challenged my perceptions by inviting personal interpretation and engagement. The majestic castles of Poland and the ornate churches of Prague, with their rich histories and architectural grandeur, stood not merely as structures, but as storytellers of eras long past. These encounters illuminated for me the enriching power of art to engage the observer as an active participant in the narrative. This realization aligns with reception theory in art and literary criticism, which posits that the meaning of a work is co-created through the audience's interpretation. Hans Robert Jauss, a prominent figure in this field, argued that a work of art comes alive through the viewer's personal experiences and cultural background. In wedding filmmaking, the viewer's protagonist theory builds upon these concepts by transforming the viewer from a passive observer into an active participant in the couple's story. By employing visual storytelling elements, such as composition, pacing, color, and sound, we aim to create an immersive experience that evokes the identity and personal landscape of the couple. This approach allows the viewer to feel deeply connected, as if they are personally getting to know the couple, mirroring the emotional resonance felt when standing before a masterpiece in a gallery. This approach requires filmmakers to think deeply about how each element of the film contributes to this immersive experience. The camera movement, for instance, may mimic the couple's behavior, soft and lingering for the intimate moments, capturing their tenderness, or quick and dynamic during moments of excitement. The aim is to make the viewer feel as though they are getting to know the emotions of the couple, piecing together the essence of their character through these creative decisions. In Disney's 2015 movie Inside Out, we see this same sort of principle at work. Emotions like joy and sadness aren't just abstract feelings, they are given personalities, backstories, and motivations that the viewer gradually comes to understand. By getting to know each emotion individually, viewers gain a fuller picture of the main character's inner life and the complexity of her experiences. Likewise, in an identity-driven wedding film, each shot, sound cue, and transition can embody an aspect of the couple's emotional landscape, whether it's a glance that reveals vulnerability, a laugh that conveys joy, or a moment of stillness that speaks to their mutual understanding. Just as Inside Out invites viewers to empathize with Riley by personifying her emotions, utilizing viewer as protagonist theory allows the audience to get to know the couple in question. giving depth to our work that wouldn't be achieved by merely presenting events on the surface. Ultimately, Protagonist Theory invites the viewer to uncover personalities of the couple through subtle details and emotional cues. If adequately applied, these films are not merely driven by transformative stories or aesthetic beauty, but by the authentic expression of the couple's identity. Identity-driven. Application. As I witness more filmmakers around the globe adopting Protagonist Theory, I see countless ways this approach allows the audience to deeply connect with the couple's unique identity. By focusing on immersing the viewer through carefully chosen details that reflect the couple's personalities, we are transforming the wedding film experience into something far more intimate and compelling. I acknowledge that this book on editing does not encompass every international method or approach. However, from my own experience, including participation in many wedding film competitions, I have observed recurring themes that emphasize the importance of capturing the essence of the couple. Personally, I have embraced the challenge of creating identity-driven films in my portfolio, which ultimately led me to formalize my belief that a noteworthy and compelling film is best achieved through Protagonist Theory. Without relying on a budget for beautiful decor or the poetic dialogue of speeches, I believe that the challenges of creating a compelling wedding film can be overcome by crafting identity-driven wedding films, ultimately guided by Protagonist Theory. This book will illustrate how to achieve this within our editing workflow and explain the rationale behind key editing decisions. To provide my commentary as straightforward as possible, this book is organized as follows. Why? Chapter 1. This chapter has already covered why we create one of the 3 subgenres of wedding films: to share the transformation, to share the beauty, or to share the identity. Who? Chapter 2 to 3. These chapters cover the wedding film quadrant to help us determine who we are working with. When? Chapter 4. This chapter covers the hierarchy of wedding film attention to illustrate when our audience is most immersed in our films. What and how? Chapter 5 to 12. These chapters, which are the bulk of this book, cover what is most notable for our viewers and how we can enhance our editing technique with the 5 components of a compelling wedding film. Where? Chapter 13. This final chapter helps reiterate where we are in our career and predictions for where it may lead us. Who is this book for? This book is crafted for the wedding filmmakers who see their work as an art form rather than just a business. It is not designed for those who operate on a large scale, with teams of 8 or more handling multiple weddings a day. My perspective comes from the intimate world of a small boutique brand, where the focus is on quality listening and observing rather than quantity. If you're looking for a quick formula to edit an award-winning wedding film in just a few hours, or a guide to making 6 figures, this isn't the book. Nor is it a manual on entrepreneurship or a technical guide on gear, though I do touch on these topics where relevant. I suppose this book will resonate most with filmmakers who typically work with a small team, perhaps 2 to 3 shooters on a wedding day, though I also understand the dynamics of working solo or with teams of up to 5. My approach requires time to craft each film with care and attention to the details of the human psyche. At the time of writing, I typically deliver a wedding film package within 6 months, and I'm even considering extending that time frame to ensure the highest quality. I believe this book is best suited for the wedding filmmakers who take their work as serious art that is aimed to be shown in the cinema. This is for the passionate artist that understands there are a multitude of ways to paint the sky, but would like to see why some blues and some strokes work better than others. This is a book for the psychologically, emotionally, and philosophically curious who know that films are just one method of embodying another person's emotions. And what is humanity if not to understand one another? In the next chapter, let's paint a landscape of the 4 archetypal wedding films that appear to be most prominent today. Hoo-wee, that was a lot. I started to lose my voice there. You probably noticed. Thank you all so much for listening to me read, narrate, and talk about this book. Viewer is protagonist. If you're interested in learning more about this book, or are extremely interested enough to continue reading my rambles of wedding film philosophies and psychological techniques, I'd love to hear your take on what I have put into this book. Whenever you have the time, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. After going through it, I'd love to understand what stood out to you most, some of the theories that I have, the philosophies, the concepts and frameworks that I've included in this book. The entire first part of this book is theory and a lot of concepts that I think back to when I'm coming into the editing timeline, and also before I even shoot, and how I approach a wedding day and how I approach getting to know a couple before I meet them in person, before their wedding. So yeah, this is an amalgamation of 10 years of working in the wedding film industry, and I'm excited to finally have it out there. I know there are a lot of typos and formatting. There's room for polished formatting in this book. I even noticed it just reading this first chapter. But if you can look past my chaotic mind of trying to get it all onto paper, I do believe that there are some high-level concepts that I think a lot of intermediate and advanced filmmakers would enjoy reading into. I know that I enjoyed putting it all together and looking at the neuroscience behind why some editing choices come to mind and why they stick out to us. Thank you all so much for listening to my narration of chapter 1 of Viewer is Protagonist, and I hope to catch you all in the next video. Have a good evening.